Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are prying open the black box of modern advertising. We're going to demystify the powerful artificial intelligence that decides exactly which ads you see, when you see them, and most importantly, why. So let's dive in. We've all been there, right? You're just scrolling through your feed, minding your own business, and then it happens. An ad pops up that is so specific, so eerily spot on to a conversation you just had that you can't help but ask, how on earth did they know? Well, the answer is inside a process that, for most of us, is a total mystery. That mystery, that black box, actually has a name: ad allocation. This is the engine of the entire digital ad world. It's a complex, data-driven process that decides where to stick every single ad for the biggest impact. And today, we are going to crack it open. Our story really unfolds in 3 acts. We're going to start in the pretty recent past when humans were still in the driver's seat. Then, we'll see how AI jumped in as this incredibly powerful co-pilot. And finally, we'll get to where we are right now, an era where AI is basically in full command. So let's rewind the clock to the time before 2015. Back then, the world of placing ads was, a lot simpler and a whole lot more manual. In this era, advertising was kind of like using a paper map instead of a GPS. Decisions were based on simple rules and really just educated guesses, what the industry calls heuristics. Targeting was super broad. Think age, gender, maybe location. And if you bought something, well, success was usually just given to the very last ad you happened to click on. It worked, but it was a world away from the pinpoint precision we see now. But then, around 2015, everything started to change. Machine learning algorithms began creeping into the scene, not to replace humans, but to give them some serious superpowers. And this was the big shift. Suddenly, you had this new partnership. Humans were still planning the big picture strategy, but the AI took over all the nitty-gritty tactical stuff. Manual bidding became automated and totally focused on a goal. And that broad demographic targeting, it evolved into these super sophisticated predictive models. The human was the architect, the AI was the hyper-efficient builder. The core technology that made all of this possible is something called real-time bidding, or RTB. Seriously, just think of it like a lightning-fast stock market, but for your attention. It's a completely automated auction that happens in the blink of an eye. What is absolutely mind-boggling is the speed of this thing. The instant you start to load a web page, bam, an auction for that little ad space kicks off. Algorithms for thousands of advertisers analyze you and place bids. A winner is picked, and their ad gets loaded. All of this happens in the few milliseconds it takes for the page to even appear on your screen. It's incredible. The impact of tech like RTB was just seismic. So much so that academic papers, the research on AI and advertising exploded. It went up by 445% after 2015. This wasn't just a slow evolution. It was a flat-out technological revolution. And it all happened in less than a decade. Which brings us to today. We're now living in the fully automated era. AI isn't just an assistant anymore. In a lot of ways, it is running the entire show. Today's world is all about end-to-end automation. The AI makes a decision for every single ad impression you see. It uses something called reinforcement learning, which is basically a fancy way of saying it learns through trial and error to constantly get smarter about where to place ads. But here's the catch. Even with all this crazy automation, the research is crystal clear. Human strategy and oversight are more critical than ever to actually guide the machine. And get this, AI's role has expanded way beyond just placing ads. It's now in the creative department. Generative AI is writing ad copy, it's creating images. We have AI-powered virtual influencers with millions of followers. There are even systems that can analyze our facial expressions to predict whether or not an ad will do well. The black box isn't just allocating ads anymore, it's helping to create them from scratch. Okay, so we've seen how this incredible technology works, but this brings us to the most important question of all. What does it all mean? What are the consequences of living in a world of perfectly optimized, AI-driven advertising? It really all boils down to this one fundamental trade-off. On one hand, you have personalization. It helps us discover products we actually want and makes our online life a bit more relevant. But on the other hand, you have privacy. This whole system is fueled by massive data collection, and that raises some really serious questions about how our data is used and that feeling of being constantly watched. And what's so fascinating here is how AI plays both sides when it comes to trust. It's used for good to detect fraud and get rid of fake profiles, which makes everything safer, but it can also be used to generate spammy or misleading content. And this leads to this wild paradox that researchers have uncovered. The very ads that people find the most useful are also the exact same ones that make them the most uncomfortable about their privacy. So the path forward is, well, it's incredibly complex. This isn't just about making the technology better. It's about finding this really delicate balance between all these competing forces: what consumers want, ethics, automation, human guidance, making money, and maybe the biggest one of all, trust. And that leaves us with the final huge question, one for advertisers, for the big platforms, and really for all of us. Now that we've opened the black box and seen what's inside, we have to decide for ourselves, is a world of perfectly relevant ads worth the price? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.